Natalie, we have a show to do today.
But Mark, there's so many birds outside right now.
We're filming.
But I want to watch the birds.
Come on, we gotta do the show today.
Good day to you, park people. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Mark, and we're your armchair adventure guides to what's wild in Medina County.
In today's episode, we will explore a musky mustelid, take a walk on the wild flower trail, and discover what's the bug about snow fleas. It will leave you itching to learn more about these amazing creatures.
Yeah, let's take a look at our top story today.
But in all seriousness, folks, let's start by watching a few resident mink that I filmed at several of our parks. Mark, did you know that they're in the mustelid family?
That means they're related to weasels, badgers, ferrets, fishers, grisons, martins, otters, polecats, stoats, tyras, wolverines. 2 minutes later. And...
Mark, we don't have time to list all 60 species in the family. This show is only 28 minutes long.
It's about time I get a watch.
The largest family within the order Carnivora is the Mustelidae family. Most members of the Mustelidae family have long bodies and short legs like a ferret. All members of this family also have scent glands that can help these animals to do things like mark their territory. The American mink can be found in most of the United States and Canada, including right here in Medina County. This animal prefers forests near water, which can be found in many of the Medina County Park District parks. Specifically, look for areas with potential cover, which could include rocks or brush piles formed from fallen trees. American minks can be rather large, measuring up to 2 feet in length. This length can be deceiving though, as roughly half of this length is accounted for by the tail. They are dark brown in color and can show varying amounts of white on the chin, chest, and throat. If one is close enough to see an American mink's toes, they may observe some webbing. They are semi-aquatic animals, spending life both on land and in the water, so the limited amount of webbing helps them to move more easily on land while still helping them to move effectively through water. Mating occurs in winter, with young born in late spring. By 10 months old, mink are considered mature adults. Outside of breeding season, and once young are grown, it would be a rare occurrence to see more than one mink in an area, as they are typically solitary animals. Mink will mark their territories with secretions from their scent glands and are often not very tolerant of other mink crossing into their space. Within that territory, they will hunt for food and are avid and agile predators. They show little fear, are stealthy, and surprisingly swift. Mink can be seen climbing, diving up to 15 feet into the water, and even swimming up to 100 feet below the water's surface to catch their prey. The type of prey they eat depends on the season, with more small mammals on the menu in the winter, and more variable aquatic and terrestrial meals, including northern green frogs, like the ones pictured here, throughout the rest of the year. Mink will dig their own burrows, but they will also take advantage of burrows that have already been made. They will gravitate towards burrows and banks of water bodies, but will also take up residence in old homes from other animals like the common muskrat. The mink in this video has temporarily taken up residence in a drain, which, to be fair, does look an awful lot like an abandoned burrow in a rocky bank. If this mink decides to stay, it might line the burrow with dried plant material or scraps of fur. And if it chooses not to stay, it has found another hiding place to conceal it from prey and predators. The list of predators of mink is fairly small. Mink, while small, are aggressive animals. They will defend themselves and even fight back against larger predators. This behavior, coupled with its camouflaging coat and habit of hiding in brush, rock piles, or other concealed burrows, can make it not only hard to catch, but also hard to find. Sometimes a larger carnivore like a coyote or large bird of prey may succeed in catching a mink. It is an American mink's job to stay out of sight to both eat and survive. However, a hike through mink habitat with a careful eye and a little bit of luck might just result in a neat observation of this elusive carnivore.
Meet the Animals is next. Naturalist Nicole is going to talk about Tucker the turtle, who lives in the lab at our nature center.
He's kind of a big deal. He is a celebrity.
That's funny. Do you know how turtles like Tucker communicate?
That's a good question.
How about a shell phone? Did you know that he also likes to use it to take selfies?
Oh, wow. Oh, brother. I really started something. I hope this bit doesn't turn out to be a turtle disaster.
Oh, yikes.
This is Tucker. He is an eastern box turtle and one of the education animals at Wolf Creek Environmental Center. He and the other animals will frequently join us on education programs to help us teach about wildlife. When not at programs, Tucker spends his days here in this indoor habitat. Like all living things, box turtles need food, water, shelter, and space to live. It can be challenging to properly care for wild animals. We have a permit from ODNR to house native wildlife for education. Tucker is a reptile. Reptiles and all other ectothermic animals rely on the environment to regulate body temperature. One side is heated with a heat lamp to provide a space for him to warm up, and the other side is an area he can move to cool down. We also have a special UVB bulb that is necessary for all captive reptiles to have healthy bones and shell. How do wild reptiles survive without light bulbs? The sun shines its full spectrum of light and provides for all of those needs. Let's go see the habitat of a wild box turtle. No, not the pond. We're in the forest. Box turtles have many adaptations that make it well suited for the forest. They are terrestrial turtles and actually swim quite poorly. Tucker likes to take a bath on occasion, though. Turtles have no teeth. They have a beak much like a bird. They are omnivores, so they can eat both meat and plants. Their diet includes insects, grubs, worms, snails, slugs, eggs, mushrooms, and flowers, veggies, fruits, and leaves. Box turtles have claws to help them walk over rocks and logs on the forest floor. Oops! Their dome-shaped shell and their strong neck means they're not on their backs for long. With some effort, they can flip back over. Box turtle males, like Tucker, are usually more colorful than the females. Both benefit from the protection of camouflage. Colors and patterns make it more difficult for predators to find them. When threatened, they will retreat all of their limbs into their shell and clamp it shut. They can close up, like a box. This is possible through a special hinge on the lower plastron shell. Very few predators can effectively prey upon an adult box turtle because of this adaptation. Tucker has lived with the Medina County Park District since 2009. He greets hundreds of people each week. His job is to bring people a little closer to nature and to inspire all who meet him to join us in seeking to enhance the quality of all life through education, conservation, and the protection of natural resources.
Did you know that Hubbard Valley Park is one of our best places in the Park District to see wildflowers?
Yes, I did. And here is our interpretive services manager, Shelley, to take us on a walk. She puts the pedal to the metal in this one.
So spring is finally here, and the forest is coming alive with pops of color in the form of spring ephemerals. Ephemerals? What are those, you ask? Well, a spring ephemeral is a wildflower that's here for just a fleeting moment in time. So from 2 days to maybe a couple of weeks at most. So you need to get out often to see what's blooming, or you might miss something. Let's take a hike. This is Harbinger of Spring. As its name implies, it is a sign of spring as one of our earliest emerging wildflowers on the forest floor. Flowers and stalks come up first. They are pollinated by native flies and bees, whose emergences are timed to coincide with these flowers. Kind of a mutually beneficial relationship. Do some pollinating, in return get some food resources. We've got Spring Beauty right here. If you look closely, you can see these pink lines along the petals. These little pink lines serve as like landing strips for small insects, flying insects that we're going to be landing on this plant to find food and then also help pollinate it. Here we have trout lily. These long brown things are called the stamens. And this is the part of the flower that creates that pollen. The trout lily has a specialist bee that will visit it. It's called a trout lily miner, a little mining bee. And this little bee will visit other flowers to get food for itself. But in order to gather food for its young, after they hatch from their eggs in their larval stage, they need food to eat, and the adults provision the food from gathering pollen. The only food that their young will eat is pollen from the trout lily. Quirky little Dutchman's breeches are now in bloom. It gets its name from the unique flower head, which resembles a pair of breeches or short pants hanging on a clothesline, like hanging upside down from a clothesline to dry. Wild Canadian ginger is emerging from the ground. We can see this kind of oddly shaped maroon flower that's sitting on the ground. It is perfectly positioned and colored to attract carrion flies. The carrion flies can help with pollination. So the red color attracts them because it resembles meat. And the positioning is down low so that some of these insects, as they're just emerging from the ground, will find it pretty easily. Rue anemone, one of the interesting things to note about this flower is that it produces no nectar. So I guess one of the benefits of looking like all of the other white flowers on the forest floor is that you can still attract insects to you in order to be pollinated. Here we have our large white-flowered trillium in full bloom. I'm not sure if you know, but the trillium is our state wildflower. This one is called Jack in the Pulpit. I think it's its name because somebody thought that it resembled the look of a preacher at a pulpit. Now the Jack part is actually called the spadix, and it's inside, and it's the part that contains the flowers. And the spathe is the covering or the pulpit. It just kind of gives a little protection. This one is broad-leaved toothwort. And we've discussed with a number of these wildflowers how they've gotten their common names, and usually it's based on some sort of physical characteristic of the plant, something about the flower or the leaf, or even maybe something on the root itself. There is another way that flowers have gotten their common names, and it's based on a 15th century theory called the doctrine of signatures. And that theory stated that nature marks a plant according to its curative benefits. So basically, if any part of the plant bared any kind of resemblance to a body part, then that plant could cure any affliction caused to said body part. In the case of the toothwort, there are tooth-like looking projections on the roots of the plant, and so because of that, they thought that this plant would cure any kind of toothache one might be experiencing.
Wow, what wonderful wildflowers we have in our parks.
Yes, Shelley really is on the ground flora with this one.
Oh, yikes. I think we need to stop the puns for a while. Gross science is next. Just a warning though, this one's really gross.
Oh no!
Oh, it just reminds me, Natalie, I forgot to eat my lunch today.
Mark. What's the bug about snow fleas is next.
Here's Naturalist Claire. I'm really starting to itch.
I'm pretty sure it's not those kind of fleas.
Did you know there's a bug called a snow flea? Don't worry, they're not actual fleas. Fleas are parasitic insects that live on warm-blooded hosts and suck blood. Snow fleas don't bite people or animals, and they're not even insects. They belong to a group of arthropods called springtails. Springtails get their name from the tail-like appendage called a furcula, which is held under tension beneath the body. When they release that tension, the furcula pushes against the substrate, launching the tiny critter in a flea-like leap that gives the snow flea its name. It might seem strange that such a tiny, cold-blooded creature is hopping around on the snow. They are able to do this because of the antifreeze-like protein they produce. In addition to this, snow is 32 degrees even when the air is colder, and the sun reflecting off the snow creates a slightly warmer microclimate right at the snow's surface. Snow fleas and other springtails live most of the year in soil and leaf litter. The size of a flake of pepper and dark in color, they are only noticeable when they come out in winter to feed on algae, pollen, and leaf mold on the surface of the snow. Snow fleas can be found in your garden or yard as long as you don't treat for insects, but it's easiest to find them at the bases of trees. They are so small that they can't dig their way up through the snow, especially when there is a crust on top. Grooves in the tree's bark give them a path to the snow's surface. The downside of looking at the base of a tree is that very often tiny bits of bark, leaf, or needle litter the snow's surface. Sometimes the only way to tell the difference between a bit of bark and a snow flea is to wait for it to move. While some species of springtails are considered agricultural pests, many are decomposers, eating and breaking down dead plant and animal material. This, as well as their role in spreading beneficial fungal spores and in consuming pathogenic ones, makes them crucial to healthy soil ecology. So next time you're out for a sunny, snowy walk, look at those flecks on the snow to see if any are hopping.
How many animals does it take to climb over a log?
Is that some kind of joke?
No joke, we'll see in this video.
Natalie, I was out at Buckeye Woods the other day and I heard frogs making zeep sounds. You know a lot about frogs. Do you know what species of frog made that sound?
Are you sure it wasn't more of a freak sound?
No, it was definitely zeeps.
I know what it is. Got it.
What is it?
You'll have to watch this next segment to find out.
Have you ever been on a hike and stumbled upon what looked like a small pool or pond that you don't recall having seen there just a few months ago? If so, then you might have found a vernal pool. Another word for vernal is temporary. These pools do not usually hold water year-round, which makes their name very fitting. Since they are temporary, there are often fewer fully aquatic predators like fish that might eat eggs. This has resulted in many things specially adapting to life in these temporary pools where they can perform important tasks like laying eggs with added safety. Today I want to share with you some of the awesome things that we've recently found in our vernal pools. Oh look, a western chorus frog. If you can see a chorus frog, which is often hard because they're less than 1.5 inches long, then you might see 3 dark stripes running down its back. You're more likely, however, to hear it before you see it. Why do you think this teeny frog is singing its heart out? If you guessed to find a mate, then you're right. We conduct frog watch surveys in many of our parks, listening for the breeding calls of male frogs like this little guy. Next time you're walking past a vernal pool, keep an ear out for the creak or sound of a finger running along a comb, and you might just find a chorus frog. This is skunk cabbage, and as you might imagine, it gets its name from the stinky smell that it emits to attract pollinators, like flies. It prefers wet, seepy soils, making vernal pools a pretty good home. It's one of the first plants to emerge in spring, producing enough heat to actually melt the snow around it. Fairy shrimp are specially adapted crustaceans that lay their eggs as the pools are drying, overwintering as eggs or cysts, they're pretty hardy, and then hatching with the spring rains. They're only about 1 inch long when mature, so it's not hard to imagine that in the right habitat you can get as many as 200 fairy shrimp per liter of water. How amazing is that? While this spider might look big and bad to you, I find it rather adorable, and well adapted. By name, you might think that they only eat fish, but they will eat just about anything, including tadpoles, which often call vernal pools home. The fishing spider is good at the sit-and-wait strategy. When prey is where they want it, they ambush, even if it means going underwater. Yes, they can go underwater. And if they want to, they can even walk across the water too, thanks to little water-repellent hairs on their legs. The red-spotted newt might be one of my favorite vernal pool finds. They live the most miraculous lives. These newts are born in water from an egg, transformed to a land-dwelling and toxic juvenile or eft by the end of the year, and remain as such for up to several years before returning to the water as an adult. Keep an eye out on land and in water for these slick little predators. And last but not least, how could we pass up the iconic spring peeper, whose tiny but high-pitched peep are one of the telltale signs that spring is on its way. While this might look similar in size and shape to the chorus frog, and they share adaptations like their tiny toe pads, look to their backs where you'll notice a dark X rather than dark stripes. And when in doubt, you're more likely to hear them before you see them anyhow. So keep an ear to the pools for that telltale peep.
What's my job is next?
Oh, I remember my past jobs. I used to work at a vegetable stand. The celery was never that good.
That's funny. I thought we were done with the puns.
Hi there, I'm John Glad, Communications Coordinator for Medina County Park District. And we're back with another installment of What's My Job?, where you get to meet some of the people behind the scenes at Medina County Park District. Today, we're joined by Natural Resource Manager Jim Spetz, who's been with the Park District for 11 years. You know, I tend to picture people who work in the field of natural resources when they were kids as the kind of children who could always be found playing outside. Is there any truth in that for you?
It pretty much describes my childhood to a T. You know, I grew up in Lake County, not far from the Grand River, and I spent a lot of my time just walking up and down the river, flipping rocks, seeing what was underneath it, catching turtles, bringing them home, trying to set up my own little ecosystems and aquariums. My mother didn't always love it, but she was willing to accommodate my interests.
What are your responsibilities as the Park District's Natural Resource Manager?
It's kind of all rolled up into one here at Medina County Park District, with the Natural Resource Manager being responsible for restoration projects, biological inventories, invasive species management, day-to-day trail maintenance, our deer management program, managing wildlife populations, nuisance species, including raccoons, Canada geese. It's a little bit of everything, which is actually one of the things I love about this job in this park district. Is every day is a little bit different. We always get to do something new.
Jim, sometimes yours are the first boots on the ground when the Park District is buying a piece of property or thinking about buying a new piece of property. What kinds of things are you looking for in a potential new park or preserve?
A few things go into it. First and foremost, it's about protecting the resources. So that can be, you know, is there a floodplain, a stream valley? What condition are those streams or wetlands in? We'll do biological inventories. We're essentially looking for biodiversity. You know, we want to protect as much as we can while we still can. And so piecing those things together, protecting corridors of habitat for wildlife, is a really important part in that decision making.
What are some of the steps that are involved in transforming a piece of property into a park or preserve long before visitors set foot there?
It's a lot about restoration. So if you look at the state of Ohio, is second in the nation for drained wetlands. That's why you tend to see a lot of wetland restoration in our park system. And that can involve crushing field tiles that were used to drain fields to make them suitable for agriculture. So in a lot of cases, we're trying to reverse some of those activities that were really successful so that we can restore the habitat that was here before and connect these different habitats together and protect as much habitat as possible to promote biodiversity in the park systems. You know, that's a process that takes place over years, so you have to be patient. But it's also really rewarding because you get to see these places transform over time. And a lot of change does take place. You know, I've been with the Park District for 10 years and I've gotten to see some of my earlier reforestation projects start to look like a little patch of woods. It takes a while, but if you're patient, and you have to be because there's no other choice, you eventually see things start to take shape, and there's a lot of pride that comes with that.
Jim, what are some common things that we visitors may unwittingly do when we visit a park or a preserve that can actually cause damage to plants and animals and the environment?
One of the biggest things we try to encourage people to always stay on the park trails. And there's reasons for that, because you can crush a lot of the small plants and stuff that are in there that are already under a lot of pressure from deer browse or just habitat changes. Some of the other things I often see is These people will maybe flip logs, but it's also very important to roll that log back because that's some creature's home, similar in a stream. You see some of these cairns where people are building towers of rocks in the stream. That can do actually a surprising amount of damage to the stream. Underneath that rock is a little microhabitat that's really important to an invertebrate or maybe a stream-side salamander and fish. So we want to leave things the way we found it. And really just respect the nature that's out there.
What are some things that the average person can do on their own property, even if it's just a small city lot, that can make it more nature-friendly?
Plant native species. Calorie pear, the flowering pear trees that are so popular at garden centers, actually extremely invasive. Things like purple loosestrife that you might find at the garden center, very, very invasive. These plants aren't native to this region, and when we introduce them, they don't have natural controls on their population. So they can spread, often aggressively. They can displace a lot of the native plants, and those native plants that evolved alongside our native wildlife, they rely on each other, and when we introduce these invasive species, we interrupt those relationships and we start to pick apart the fabric of the ecosystem.
Is there a spot in the Park District that's among your favorites? Maybe it's a certain view or a certain tree or trail or body of water that's meaningful to you and that you like to recommend to visitors?
Really like some of the huge trees that you can find in Medina County Park District. For example, the bur oak, if you've been to Schleman Nature Preserve right by the bridge, just a massive bur oak. It has to be, over a couple hundred years old, and you look at something like that and you just imagine the history that that tree has seen, in a sense. Actually, if you go to Instagram and you look, we have a hashtag Big Trees of MCPD.
Jim, thanks for all that you and your staff do to make the parks a better place for plants and animals and for people.
That's it for today's episode, folks. Join us next time for another armchair adventure into Medina County Parks.
Until next time, stay wild, Medina.